So this comparison between the Nanlite FC-500B and the GVM SD500B is different. Lately, I've been loving comparing similar products. If you may recall, I've compared the eVoto against Retouch for me. I also compared two other lights, the Moz B200 against the Pixel. My initial thought when I'm doing these videos is that companies really don't like it, or actually hate it, but it's better for you and for myself as it helps me understand the difference between two similar products, especially when money is on the line. Hi, my name is Evans B, and I'm a professional sports and portrait photographer out of Montreal, Canada. This time, GVM unexpectedly reached out to me with explicit request for me to test their new GVM SD500B Pro bicolor. Whew, light versus the Nanlite FC500B. I think I know why though GVM asked me and reached out to me to do this comparison, and we'll talk about it towards the end of this video. Now, this is like a prize fight. In this case, GVM is the challenging champion as they're kind of smaller company and Nanlite being the bigger light. Although this comparison is a little nerdy, I hope it will not be as boring as the fight we had to witness between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
Victory was against Clifford Etienne, the show of respect.
So, time for full disclosure. I got both of these lights for free for testing and demonstration, so no money was exchanged with either GVM or Nanlite. Both of these companies do not get a chance to view this video before you do. So both of these lights are actually bicolor lights, which makes them very practical for most shooting environment. We're going to test that and many things that you can see in the chapters below. The brightness output of these two COB lights is interesting. When I did my initial setup for the power at 5000 output and lux and in f-stops, as you can see from the chart above, the power curve is slightly different from one light to another. For one, the GVM has a 0.1 micro adjustment on their phone application, while the Nanlite has around the 1%. So for Nanlite, the 0.1% can also be accessed via the back of the light, which is slightly more annoying, but I did notice that during testing and I thought it was important for you to know. Is the 0.1% change on the app is a big difference for the way you light a scene. Perhaps if your DP is extremely demanding and ask 0.1 is 0.1 and 0.2 is 0.2, then it's an interesting feature. In terms of measurement, at 6 feet distance with a silver reflector, at the top of the power, there were no significant changes when measuring with the Seaconic L578 when both clocking at 14,000 lux or f10 at 6 feet distance. I'm using again a 7-inch reflector that's provided by both companies that comes in the kit. And for the nerds out there that really needs specific measurements at different color temperature, I got here the increments for 5600 and 3000 Kelvin or tungsten. Notice that the Nanlite is a little weaker in both colors, especially the tungsten, where light doesn't have, I guess, access to all the chips within the sensor. At the bottom of the curve, when I did my initial test at 5000K, the GVM was able to go lower by almost a full stop at 120 lux, which demonstrates a little better control for the GVM. So for those of you who are doing very light sensitive work, the combo of 0.1% dimmable on the app and a bigger dimmable range is a win for the GVM. Both of these colors are bicolor, which means they live in a range of Kelvin temperatures, but the GVM has an advantage. The range is slightly higher with the GVM, which means you can get a cooler temperature for about 300K over the Nanlite with 6800K versus 6500K. The warmer temperatures are similar for both models with 2700K. The GVM operates with tunable increments of 50K, which is better than the Nanlite, which offers only 100K adjustments. So if you are, again, way more precise, another point for GVM. In a sense, I can get why they wanted me to compare this against this specific model. Now, the Nanlite has a declared CRI of 96K, which is great for light with this color range, and the GVM boasts a CRI of 97 plus. What does the plus means? Only they know. Now, CRI is not really my favorite way to measure the quality of light because it's manipulable via the R values. So let's not hold ourselves too tightly, but on screen you can see at first how each light handles different temperatures with a standard gray card. So both of these are LEDs, not mounting lights, which makes them quite flexible in terms of lighting, since balance is pretty much the dominant current mounting solutions. The chips on both lights are laid out in a very straight and similar patterns. And since these are powerful lights with their own power adapter, still reflector and without cables, they weigh quite a bit. The GVM is actually really heavy, coming in at 18.4 pounds. Alright, so my first impression of the GVM, it's very similar to the Nanlite. What I mean is, in terms of feel of how it's constructed, it feels a similar quality. I can't really tell a difference between this and, let's say, the Nanlite, which is we have to say, more of an industry standard in terms of popularity. But again, I wouldn't feel bad pulling this out on set because again, it feels kind of good. It's just maybe a little heavier and bigger than a Nanlite. So if weight is a big item for you, then I guess you have to remove some points. But as of now, it feels the same. And the Nanlite is at 12.4 pounds. So the GVM head is very, very thick, as the kids say, and as highlighted in some of the reviews, it's coming in alone, just the head itself, at 12.4 pounds, which is a little heavy. The Nanlite has a 120-degree beam angle, and the same is for GVM if you leave the light bare. So this is the part where things get a little more complex. The GVM has a control box that operates the light and provides power and has a bunch of features like power, cut and color DMX. The head itself has no control, only a single receiver for the cable. The Nanlite, on the other hand, has all of its control in the back of the light. Operating the menu isn't difficult, but if your Nanlite is boomed somewhere, you have a difficult access to it, and for some reasons you don't have your app, your life will be just a little complicated. The GVM offers full XLR connections versus the 3.5mm jack from the Nanlite. This makes it for more rugged applications, and especially professional applications, where the goal of the 500B from Nanlite is to offer an affordable yet powerful light. More on that price and those features later, but both lights offer a battery solution versus a plug-in solution with a little caveat. Since the GVM is a little geared towards pros and you can sense where this is going, there's a battery plate adapter located directly into the control box. The Nanlite V-mount adapter has to be purchased separately for another $400-ish. So the GVM in this case should be really compared against the Forza edition of the Nanlite, where they offer quite similar offers. But this is something that we'll discuss later as of now. We'll see how they function in the wild. So as I mentioned it before, both lights are balance mount. Both are easily accessible and work very well. In terms of my testing, I had to shoot a podcast, and I've used a Nanlite softbox on top of the GVM, that's for fun, and I really loved the Nanlite softbox, and I've been using it a lot. So both units have a clamp that enables you to attach the control box or the power adapter directly into a light stand, and it offers kind of a simple sandbag without having a sandbag, which is pretty standard nowadays, but again, very useful if you are interested into moving on to a bigger solution. I must say, while the GVM bar looks extremely solid, if you have anything else than a large light stand that has maybe a hook, you need to attach it to the stand and you'll curse a little bit. The quality of that hold bar is really great. I can't read it enough, but the bar itself is a little too thick and to hang it onto a knob of a light stand if you are on the fly. I really prefer the GVM solution, which comes with a simple string that you can basically attach to anything. Both lights also come with a case to fit all the basic accessories. Now it's a matter of choice, but the Nanlite has a crush-proof foam case versus the soft padded case for the GVM. I tend to prefer the layout of the Nanlite since carrying that GVM bag around, because it's built sideways, makes it a little awkward to handle, especially at a super heavy weight of 18.4 pounds. Also, crush-proof makes it a lot safer for you if your light needs to fly, and we all know how well the TSA is good at handling baggage. They're so gentle.
Take a look as the Air Canada handler hurls the bags right down a flight of stairs.
Oh, good thing my computer's in there.
Now, I've already touched on some of the controls, but let's focus on the app itself. I'm currently using an Android as a daily driver as I'm very tired of the iPhone. I know this means comments, I don't care. Both of the Nanlite and the GVM have their respective apps that helps you control and play around each power, color, etc. and whatever features or effects you want into your light. Both lights, in my opinion, were responsive, although after installing the app, I had trouble syncing, and I still having little issues syncing the GVM Bluetooth light to my phone, but after a couple of times resetting it, it seems to have settled, but again, I have sometimes here and there little connection issues. The GVM app itself is really simple and even offers a couple of source matching. So if you have a scenario that you need to match a specific source of light, it can actually do its best trying to get there. What I also love with the GVM app, it has 4 curve change, which offers a little more flexibility when trying to light in basically a scene in a particular way. So they have curves that are not available at the top end, of course, because at full power you're using all the basic chips available, but they do offer some additional flexibility when you try to either step down or maybe try to create some contrast or some dimming down that's really specific to a scene. Again, not something that's available on the Nanlite, but something that's available on the GVM for those current models. Again, more specifically on the Nanlite, the same is not available for the FC500B, where there are only two modes, which is basically max or constant. Constant output mode allows you to basically change your CCT without having to adjust the camera settings or any of the equipment. This can help you speed up your workflow on set if ever you're really, again, on the fly. And for those who don't get it, max is simply you're going for as much light output as possible. So the quick cliff note about these two lights is the GVM control box is unattached to the head where all the features are managed. The menu is colorful with 2 dials and 4 buttons for a simplified navigation. You know, when you're stressed out on set and everything is really already split, helps you calm your nerves so you can quickly access the menu to fix your issue. For example, the fan has a separate button for control, and if your soundstage is really sensitive, you can actually dim it down to nothing. No need to look for anything in the menu, you just have a button that presses. The Nanlite though, on the other hand, is a lot more basics as everything is controlled via the back of the light, which makes it tighter in terms of control with 2 dials and 2 buttons and a gray and white menu, and the box is simply a power supply. So in terms of quality and build, both lights feel great in terms of durability, although I did not do a drop test, so yeah, get me for that. Both lights are made of a mix of very heavy aluminum chassis and thick plastic. If I have to grade both on a scale of A to Z, I would say the GVM I would give an A and a B plus to Nanlite. The reason why the B plus is the Nanlite feels just that slightly cheaper. I can't explain why, it just feels that way when you grab both of them. I've mentioned this before, but the GVM cables, especially DMX connections, are way superior to the Nanlite, which feels a little more amateur and just available as a feature. Since there's a bunch of vents, both lights are not waterproof, and funny enough, there's even a warning on the GVM saying, "Fear the rain." But for some reasons, it's also mentioned on the website that it's water resistant, at least the head is. So one thing I would say is I do not like the layout power of DMX cable on the GVM. I suspect that fan management has a lot to do with it, but I'll explain. As you can see on screen, the Nanlite control box stands basically on the floor upright by itself. So no need to attach it to a stand, you can just put it on the floor and it's simple. The cables are located on top, which makes it convenient for all sorts of operations. Let's say you just like to keep your cables in a perfect line, it's all good. The GVM on the other hand though, the lights or whatever cables are located at the bottom and it always a struggle to leave it laying down flat. I know it's supposed to be attached to a light stand, but sometimes I just like to leave stuff on the floor because it's just simpler. And using the provided clamp, if I'm not really actively looking to do it, is okay. But again, I don't like the fact that I have to lay out basically the control box flat on the floor versus just putting it upright, grabbing it whenever I need to, and I'm done. Again, this is something really small, but it's something I really think about a lot for some reasons whenever I grab the light and I'm trying to set it up in a position. In terms of noise, while using it, the GVM fan, it really felt significantly quieter than Nanlite. I had it for a full day of videos and shoot, and I really couldn't hear it. But who cares about how I feel? Here are the noise levels on screen. So the floor noise was 42.8 decibels in my home studio, and when I set the fan to high mode with the sound meter right next to it, I got the following results. For the GVM, decibels or a delta of 14.9 against the bass. And for the Nanlite, 57.6 decibels, so a delta of 14.8 decibels. Now I'm gonna hear you out. It's fairly comparable, although going back to my comment about the perception of noise, is Nanlite does sound slightly more irritating because it's a higher pitch noise versus the GVM, which is low frequency noise. Again, I tend to pick those noise really well, so for me the GVM again seems a little higher in terms of noise, but here's a sample that I captured with my little Sennheiser mic. So both of these lights have special lighting effects that's available on the entire spectrum of the color range and lighting, like TV and welding and lighting. I count 12 for the GVM and the same for Nanlite, but again, I'm not sure who really uses those. I mean, it might be practical, but they're there for your enjoyment. Now, cost and reputation is where I think GVM warrant that specific review. So without discounts, the GVM SD500 Pro costs about $799 US without any rebates and free shipping throughout the US. On the other hand, the Nanlite is $699 USD with also free shipping. The GVM policy has a 30-day refund policy with 1-year limited warranty, versus the Nanlite is actually very generous as a 15 days written policy, but a 3-year warranty on their product. I think, in short, GVM wanted to punch up what they offered as a value in its package. You're getting slightly better control with the app. You're also getting a slightly better range with the colors basically coming out of the light. And the control box is significantly better than Nanlite and has more pro features when it comes to DMX controls if you're into that thing. Where the GVM is great, the Nanlite, in my opinion, is also still a very good light that I've used for portraits and videos. I think this is where the mismatch in features is where it's really heading in comparison. I think the Forza 500B from Nanlite is a more likely comparison against the control box, but I think what GVM wanted to do is compare for similar prices how this compares to this. And I think if just on price alone, you get way more features in this without thinking about the warranty and etc. etc. But the question I have to ask to you is, who do you trust? GVM has been around since 2013, and I'll have to speak about Nanlite has been present since 1992. Both of these companies are Chinese, but I feel like Nanlite has a way bigger representation here in North America. I've seen it in trade shows and conferences I had to speak to, and I've used their products in the past and they're always great. So is it fair to compare both? Well, in terms of price, yes. I think this is where the GVM wants you to feel that it's standing out. For the almost $100 more, you get a lot more features versus the more basic model that is in Nanlite. It's a decision you'll have to make by yourself, but I don't believe you'll be disappointed in either GVM or the Nanlite over the short term. But I think it comes down to what are you already married into? If you already have the Nanlite, then it's great because you can actually support with the same app all your lights, and basically you'll get something that's really good. Again, not packed with the same features as GVM, but I don't think you'll be disappointed in using that. Versus GVM seems to be offering a lot of features, so if ever you're brand new to the game and you want to maybe invest into a line, this is good and this will get you far. And then this, again, for the similar amount of money, you're getting a lot more package into one light versus another. So are you already married or you're single, you're looking to something? Well, both of these lights can offer you something that's going to be the direction for the rest of your career, or for a little while at least. So that's it. If you made it there, might as well subscribe for more reviews. Let me know what you think about both of these lights, and I'll see you in the next video. I appreciate you.